Hello, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning everyone, my name is Ilham Saputra, student from 2016, and I would like to present my proposal. The title is Simple and Strategies depict on direction of the reader on FC Bus analysis post on Twitter. Back then, human beings are social creatures. They interact in daily life to meet their needs. Language is an essential element as a communication tool to get interact. A conversation can occur directly or indirectly through mobile phones or electronic messages. Bordeaux that when people in a conversation, they will use specific sentence types, word, and sound. The relation influence the understanding of each other's intention. Pragmatically, the relation between people and society known as a phrase in a text conversation, the interpretation of meaning is just based on the phrase, with a gesture or an expression, increases the possibility of misunderstanding or for someone to commit an act of impoliteness. Impoliteness is a pragmatic branch applied to detect the hearer's phrase. Culper state impoliteness is a negative attitude towards specific behavior in a particular context. Nowadays, social media is developing as a place for people to communicate and express themselves, one of which is Twitter. Twitter is the most popular social media for people to interact with someone. Twitter allows us to get early information, convey ideas, and feelings without any restriction or censorship. We also can secure our tweets so just only our follower can see it, or just the account that his posts via comments can see or replying tweets. In the study, the author will use the FC Barcelona tweet on August 15, 2020 as a research data of the impoliteness phenomenon that occurs on Twitter. Football is the most popular sport around the world that mostly enjoyed by men. Usually, the male is found using impoliteness utterance more than the female. The tweet is about the biggest club FC Barcelona's most significant defeat since 1956. They lost to 8 against FC Bayern Munich. Unintentionally lost his face and still published his defeated with just full-time caption. Have 36.4 million followers. The tweet got 15.4 thousand comments and 104,000 likes. It becomes trending on Twitter and hot news for the broadcasting channel. Next is the identification problem. Those are is, first, what are the types of impoliteness strategies used by the reader on FC Barcelona on tweets full-time about final score to egg? And then, the second is what are the reader's intentional reason as a functional impoliteness when using impoliteness strategies on FC Barcelona tweets full-time about final score to egg? And then, the objective of the research is to describe and identify the both of them. Then we move to scope of the research. Based on the tweet, the studies examine replies to the FC Barcelona full-time post that contains the type of impoliteness strategies by Culpeper. In practice, the researcher only took data from public tweets that everybody can see, that using English tenses from the replies on the first day the tweet was published. Then the method of the research. According to Sudaryanto, the data focused on the context of analysis. The researcher applied the observational with non-participant method. Using qualitative approach by applying this theory will answer the identification problem and also the objectives. In analyzing the data, the researcher will be using Culpeper 1996 impoliteness strategies and Abbas and Ismail to 2015 about functional impoliteness. The researcher will present the result descriptively using tables and percentage with a narrative explanation. To discover the data percentage, it will calculate by dividing the frequency by the data that total number and then multiply them by 100%. Then, the chapter 2, review of related literature. The researcher used 3 theses and 2 articles for review of previous studies. It helpfully in terms of analysis for the researcher. Then the theoretical framework. First, the pragmatic. Pragmatics is the study of meaning. Pragmatics is the analysis of these context-established elements. That means, irrespective of the content, material, development, or logical form, the language is uncontrolled. The sentence structure when it conveys and is manipulated by participants in a communicative situation. Then we move to impoliteness as a pragmatic branch. Impoliteness, Jonathan Culpeper extends the theory of impoliteness from Brown and Levinson's impoliteness theory. He refers to impoliteness as the strategy to attack face and create social disruption. Interpret impoliteness as a rude behavior that doesn't consider the hearer's face. For example, when the speaker gives a mock to the hearer, he will feel annoyed with him. Then we move to the basic of the impoliteness is the face. The concept of face. Face is, in linguistic literal meaning, is a self-image in a public or society. Each individual in a social group has their face, which they want to protect from threats. Face the positive social value a person claims for himself by the other's assumption that he has taken during a particular context. It involves the idea of individual who want others to think about him positively. The face is the idea to help us understand how certain incidents of impoliteness work. There are 2 types of face. First is positive face. It means the will of every member to be desirable at least to some others. In particular, it includes the desire to understood, approved, liked, or admired. Next is negative face. It has meanings the want of every competent adult member that his action cannot stop by the others. It includes the claim of territories, personal preserve, rights to not distract, and the independent person. Then, the FTA, the purpose of impoliteness behavior. A face-threatening act is a speech act that can make the hearer's positive or negative face. Impoliteness is the communicative behavior intending to cause the face loss or perceived by the target to be so. FTA have divided into two. Those are FTA to positive face and negative face. The behavior is actually similar with positive and impoliteness strategies. And then, the impoliteness strategy. Based on the extension of Brown and Levinson impoliteness strategy, Kupleper proposed 5 strategies in impoliteness theory. First is bold on record impoliteness. Is the most obvious and most straightforward impoliteness. The FTA perform a direct, clear, unambiguous, and conscious way if the face is not irrelevant or minimized, commonly used by people with a close relationship, for example, shut up or do it yourself. Then the positive impoliteness. Positive impoliteness itself is a strategy designed to make the addresser's positive face one. Positive face threatening acts happen when the speaker doesn't care about the hearer's feelings. Culpeper gives the output of this strategy, which includes ignoring, excluding the other from the activity, dissociating from the other, unsympathetic, using proper identity marker, using bubble or secret language, showing disagreement, making other comfortless, using table language, and calling the addressers with another name. And then the negative impoliteness, the strategy to make the addresser's negative face one, which is the basic claim to territories, personal preserve, want to be unimpeded, rights to non-distraction, the freedom of movement, and firm position. Culpeper gives the output of this strategy, which include making someone frightened, scorning, invade other space, associating the other with a negative aspect explicitly, putting others to depend on. Then the fourth is sarcasm or mock impoliteness. This is strategy when the FTA is performing with using the strategy of politeness. Obviously, insincerely with the implementation appear. It happens when somebody wants to make fun, to be unpleasant or cause offense in a way which does not too obvious or seems like politeness, and the addressee could recognize the offensive point of the remark indirectly as implication meaning. Hearer frequently has to know the person well to recognize that he is being sarcastic, mocking you, or that he is joking. For example, in a car towing situation when speaker 1's car gets clamped to the pound due to parking illegally. Before leaving, speaker 1 threatens speaker 2. Like this, speaker 1, yeah, you fucking shit, just because you have a fat belly anyway. And then speakers 2 replies, yeah, full of it, aren't you, huh? And then speaker 1 speechless. Speaker 2 continue to replace, it'd fit it in your mouth quite easily, wouldn't it? In that conversation, saw that speaker 2 using mock and sarcasm, impoliteness to counterattack the speaker 1 intention. Then the last strategy is withhold politeness. This happens when the absence of politeness works that might be expected. The cause of applying this strategy mostly unintentionally comes from the speaker utterance. For example, failing to thank a person for a gift might consider as purpose impoliteness. Then we move to the reason for using impoliteness as an intentional function. Bosfield and Lurcher describe impoliteness as a face-aggravating behavior in a particular context. They argue that one of the key elements that appear in impoliteness that is happen cause intentionally. Based on the statement above, impoliteness is used to achieve several functions. The reason for impoliteness behavior could identify by goals or function achieved. The researcher used Abbas and Ismail theory about functional impoliteness to find it out. The first function is mocking. This function is used to keep intimacy among participants, especially teenagers. The utterance of face-threatening acts can function to construct identity. The second function of impoliteness is defending face. When someone becomes impolite, he is willing to defend his face. Commonly, the best way to save face from verbal attack is counterattack. When in that situation, being silent might let in another face-threatening acts by the speaker. Then the third function in impoliteness is professionalism. For example, in the army atmosphere, trainees can show more improvement when their trainers are impolite, so the trainees unconsciously encouraged to show their absolute outcomes. And applied to a particular conversation, it doesn't classify this as impolite behavior. Then the fourth is legal contra situation. This function is legal cases and or sports contests. In specific circumstances, maintain the other face is not someone matters. Such as sport competition, a place the participant can be winner, and in doing this, cause the other to lose. Then the fifth is commonly used by prosecutors in a courtroom. Lakoff notes that an assumption behind the American adversarial legal system is confrontation will bring out the truth. For example, when the prosecution uses impoliteness hoping it will provoke the defendant and lose control. Style of communication to force the addressers to talk or react in a specific way. Then the sixth function is psychological. Being polite gives the participant a feel of power and authority. Impoliteness usually occurs when the speaker is more powerful than the receiver. It also increases the confidence of the individual when have to get interact with other participants. The last function is criticism. The function of criticism is to realize the effect of people. When get criticized, people subjected and liable to change their behavior. It can reduce many bad habits when criticized, like lie, exaggeration, radicalism, impurity, and urbanity. Then we move to context. To fully understand the circumstance that form the setting for an event, statement, or idea in the time, the researcher uses your understanding about context. The knowledge of the word meaning affects how to interpret the reasonable meaning of what is the writer wants to convey. Contexts have two kinds relevant to the pragmatic linguistic context and situational context. The first is linguistic context. The relationship between the words, phrases, sentence, and even paragraphs is also known as a context. Take the word bank as example. If the sentence is "she will go to the bank to withdraw some cash," we can understand the exact meaning is bank as a place for saving money, not the land alongside or sloping down to a river or a lake. It affects how interpret the words probably means. The second is situational context. Situational context or context of situation refers to the environment, time, and place, and anything related to the situation in which the discourse occurs, and also the relationship between the participants. How language is interpreted can affect any imaginable extra-linguistic factor under circumstance. Okay, maybe that's all for my presentation. I'm sorry if there have many less and lacking in writing or presenting. Hope I can pass to the next step. Thank you.